Welcome back to V8 Creative and part 41 of the Ultima RS build, and on this episode we're focusing on the LS3 and that interior. Yes, another day in the Dean Den, and today I've got two big things I'm going to cover on the episode. Firstly, I am going to talk about the LS3. Yes, I've received a very nice box of goodies from Summit Racing in the States. And what we're going to do is crack that open, and I'm going to show you the items I'm going to fit to this engine to make it look as it should. And then in the second half of this episode, we're going to pop over to the RS. I'm going to get in that cockpit and start installing instruments, air conditioning kit, warning lights and switch gear for the last time. So why don't we just go over to the unpacking point and let's see some goodies. And here we have one beautifully formed box sent all the way from Texas from Summit Racing. Now let's just crack this baby open. Oh, I can feel the heat of Texas coming out. Oh, goodies. I just love getting things from Summit Racing. So what have we got here? Well, first of all, MSD ignition leads. Now, the reason I needed these is what I'm doing is I'm repositioning the coil packs further up on the tall valve covers, and because of that I need longer spark plug leads. So let's just have a look at these, and these were the ones that were recommended by the manufacturer I got the covers from. And here we go. Oh, look. And this heat resistant sort of sleeve, I've got this because it's white. It just happened to be white, which will then match my gel coat on the RS. And those red leads, 8.5 millimeters. Yep. And of course, MSD, any of you out there that do anything to do with American V8s, they're one of the best brands in the business. And of course, got some stickers. You always get stickers when you buy stuff in the States. So I'll pop those over there, and let's just put those over here. Okay, what's next? Let's have a look. Next, we have Valpro high performance gaskets for the new valve covers, and again these were recommended for these cast aluminium items, and it's always worth getting new high quality gaskets when you're ever changing anything on the engine, because the last thing we want is oil leaks. So we have those, and then the typical invoices. Oh, look at that, more stickers. Next, we have this rather bland box, but what's in here? Ah, yes. These are billet alloy fuel rails, and what these do is they replace all that plumbing on top of the engine, and they come with braided hoses, AN fittings, and I must say this is a must to tidy the top of the engine up. I won't unwrap that at the moment, but those should be relatively easy to fit. Get rid of the packing. Next, we have the coil relocation bracket set from Proform, who produce these valve covers, and these are very affordable, and what they do is they pull the coil packs higher up, which then make the whole installation look far more impressive. Here they are, I won't open them. Nice bit of kit. We'll try those, we'll fit those in a minute. with the instructions, of course. So it's those. And then last of all, we have the performance valve covers from Proform. Now these I wanted in bright red. Unfortunately, you could only get bright red ones with Chevrolet written on, which I didn't particularly want. So I have just purchased polished aluminium items, and I'm going to get these powder coated. But if I open these up, you'll be able to see, look at that. What a nice bit of kit that is. Very nice. And those sit on top, and then these 4 holes here actually bolt into the block, and then these 6 threaded holes on the back are for the brackets for relocating the coils where they sit, which is actually on top of the head, like so. So there you have it. Those are all the parts. Now what I'm going to do now is we're just going to scoot over to the LS and then start taking some bits off. And what I'm going to do is a first fit of all this to make sure it fits perfectly before I send these off for powder coating. Okay, let's get to it. I love my V8s. Yep, and the time has come for me to crack this baby open. This brand new LS3. So what I'm going to be doing is taking off these fuel rails that I must say look like a bit of plumbing. And then also removing all these coil packs and leads, and then the valve covers. And then I'll be putting on for a dry fit, for a test, all the items I've purchased. And then if I'm happy with everything, then what I'm going to do is send those valve covers off to be powder coated in red to match the AP Racing brake calipers. And also I may be doing something a little bit special on them, but that's for another episode. And this skull cap, as I'm going to call it, I'm going to take this off, and again I'm going to be working with a company which I will reveal in a couple of episodes time, whereby this is going to be turned into carbon fiber. So without further ado, let's just start taking it apart. Right, let's get this dipstick out of the way, because I'm going to poke my eye out with it in a minute, I know. Now this was just left finger tight, so this pops out, and nope, no oil in her. So what we're going to do is put all these parts over here in the correct order, so I know exactly where everything is coming from. And also, every time we expose a hole, we're going to plug it up, because the last thing we want is any foreign bodies getting into this beautiful engine. Right, I think this is time to crack open a beer.
Get me tools and beer.
Yeah. Boy, oh boy. This is going to make the job far easier. So the next thing is, let's take these spark plug leads off. Now just check. Yep, they're all the same. And look at this. They're only 7mm. My new ones are 8.5. Notice I got a plaster. Yeah, I cut myself. I bought my wife some new knives and I was prepping the veg for tea. So it was nothing to do with this. Anyway, next, let's take these coil packs off. Nope, they're an M10. And what I'm going to do is just take off the entire bracket. There we go. Now, this should just come off. How easy is that? Now here what we can see is we've got the 1, 2, 3, 4 coil packs, and then there is a small loom on the back here. All the wires go into this plastic housing, which will have to be transferred onto the new bracket, but I'll worry about that at a later date. Let's just pop this on the ground. Now, there's a hose here. I'm just going to take this off because I think this is in the way. And what I'm going to do is actually use this to bung that up because I'm taking this off. Next, it's these 4 bolts. And if you notice here, all these little green marks are to show all these fasteners have been done to the correct torque. And what I'm going to do is, once I've painted this engine, I'm going to replicate this. So it's going to look OEM, as they say. Okay. Now, before I'm going to crack this off, what I'm going to do is take off the fuel rail, because once this is open, you don't particularly want to be working on the engine. Now, on the fuel rail, let me move you over so you can get a better view. Whoops, sorry about that. Now, this fuel rail here is held in by 4 bolts, which here. I must say, it's lovely working on a new engine. Everything just comes apart so easily. Now I'm just checking these are the same fasteners as used, for putting in the coil packs, and they are. So it doesn't matter if I get those mixed up. Always worth checking. Now the thing is, you've got 2 choices here. You can take the fuel rail off and leave the injectors in the head, or you can pull the injectors out of the head. Now I'm going to try leaving the injectors and just taking off these little clips. Can you see them there? That's 2. One more to go. Here we go. Right, now we'll just ply this up. Oh, no, the injectors wanted to come as well. Okay, never mind. There we go. So we'll put this over here and cover it up immediately to protect the ends of all those injectors. All right, let's just take this valve cover off. Oh, look at that. Beautiful, eh? Okay, let me put this over here. Looking good. You can see here, showing these have all been adjusted. Right, next thing they're going to do, we're just going to try a valve cover. Take one of these Valve Pro gaskets, not to drop it on the floor. So the valve covers come with these little stud extensions that go in here with an Allen key. So we'll put that in, and I'll put these in with a bit of stud lock, and I do it permanently. I'm not going to go too mad at the moment. And then goes on this extension, which you nip up. Now these are actually tightened to a set torque, but I'll just nip these up for now. So next I'm going to do the other 3, and then we can pop the valve cover on. Just going to nip them up. I'm not doing this to the correct torque. This is just as a dry run. Oh, they fit like, wow, they fit like a glove. Now these washers have got rubber on the back of them. And there you go. Look at that compared to the standard. That's lovely. It's really tall. What I'll do is I'll position the camera back and you'll see. Look at that. Isn't that great? And look, this is the skull cap that comes off the cover. Well, I've got something special lined up for that, so I'll just pop that back on for now.
Leaving this place, the sun's about to break. You're riding shotgun. The feeling we chase, I'm wide awake. Take me away now. 'Cause I won't go down the same old path again now. No, I've been running out of air, so let me catch my breath. Feeling I've got's making me crazy. If I'm having a good time, don't you blame me. Yeah, this feeling I've got's making me crazy. Making me crazy. So I'm just gonna drive.
It was at this moment that he knew. He f***ed up.
Get out. How is that even f***ing possible? Get out. There you go. And next what we do is we take these plug leads and then there we go. And if you imagine we replicate this 4 times on this side and then here the tool valve cover, that gives me an idea of something I could do. Anyway, looking good. I'll replicate it with all the others and then we'll have a reveal a bit later. Okay, I need another beer. So here we are. All the components I need to fit on the dashboard and also underneath the dashboard. And it looks a fair amount. Well, I have gone for all the options, so it's a bit more than standard. However, what we have here is the auxiliary gauges that you can see here, beautifully finished in silver with Ultima RS branded on them. These are the little clamps to hold them in place with the screws. We have the speedometer and tachometer in this bezel that bolts on top, and you can see me putting that together on a previous episode. We have the switches and warning lights here. This is the control for the electric wing mirrors. Wow. Yes, they are wing mirrors actually. They're not door mirrors, wing mirrors. We have the ignition switch, 2 keys. We have the start button. We have more warning lights here, which go on a bezel that goes behind the steering wheel. Here we have the system for telling you when the rear clamshell is locked in place, and that's a must upgrade, definitely. And then also what we have here is the vents, the adapters, and also all the tubing for the air conditioning. And that's it. The first job is to prep these air vents to go on the front of the dash and also the top of the dashboard. Now, as you can see here, they have a rectangular exit out of the rear, but all the tubing under the car and on the air conditioning unit is circular. So what Ultima do is they provide this conversion to go from the rectangle to a circle, which then fits inside these tubes, which then can be held in place by a zip tie. So what we have to do first is pop these in the vents. They're a pretty tight fit, but the last thing you want is them falling off. And then what I'm going to do is just put a small amount of silicone on each to make sure it doesn't fall off. Right, as you can see here, we're doing great guns. This is really easy. So we've put in the fuel gauge, the oil temp gauge, and also battery condition. Now what we're going to do now is the water temp. Now the loom for the water temp is here. You can see it says water temp on this small badge. And what we have is there is a consistent way in which these are wired up. So what we have here is 4 connections. The first one is black, that's earth, and that goes on this spade here. And what that does is provide an earth to the illumination light and also the internals of the instrument. Then we have the green feed. Now the green feed is basically the positive, and that always goes on the right hand side there. Next we have the black and the red, and the black and the red goes live when the lights go on, so that goes on the other side of the bulb. So basically when you put the side lights on the car, all the instruments are backlit. And then finally, this is basically the sender wire. So this comes from the sender, which will be in the block of the engine, and that goes there. And it's as simple as that. And basically you just feed the wires through the hole, push the instrument in, and then from the rear you pop on the clamp. And there you go. How difficult is that? And what we're going to do is replicate that with all the different switches. So the starter button goes here, and over here we've got warning lights. But anyway, so the next one I've got to put on here is the oil pressure, which is the most important one. Anyway, I'll just pop this on now. And we're done. Okay, I haven't put the clamps on the back yet. I'll do that later, but there's all the auxiliary instruments done. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to start putting on the switches, starting from the left of the dash and going right. And this one, I believe, is the fuel changeover switch.
I'm not heading for the stars, driving down the boulevard at night. Playing Coldplay on repeat, watching people on the street as I go by. And it doesn't even matter to me where I go, I just feel I need to take a ride. Got my coffee cup to go, and I'm gonna hit the road tonight.
So you can see here, this is the warning light cluster, and this sits behind the dashboard. We've pre-drilled these two very small holes, and also this very simple sticker goes on top. Very neat, quite like that. And that's right behind the steering wheel. And obviously we need these warning lights, one, for driver aid, but two, also to get the car road legal in the UK.
Now my wheels in motion and my windows open with the wind blowing in my hair. I'm driving down the highway, gonna do this my way. I can feel it in the air. Here I go. Turning up the stereo in a place I didn't know till now. In a different part of town, I see new colors as the sun goes down. No, it doesn't even matter to me where I go. Just feel I need to take a ride. I don't know when I'll get back. Keep on going and relax tonight. Now my wheels in motion and my windows open with the wind blowing in my hair. I'm driving down the highway, gonna do this my way. I can feel it in the air. Here I go. I'm not heading for the stars, driving down this boulevard tonight. Yeah. Playing Coldplay on repeat, watching people on the street as I go by. Now my wheels in motion and my windows open with the wind blowing in my hair. I'm driving down the highway, gonna do this my way. I can feel it in the air. Here I go.
Woohoo! Looking good. Okay, now just put these on, the leads in. Tighten those up. The crowning glory. Oh, wow, doesn't that look good? I love my Ultima. This is beautiful. Yeah, I'm a bit out of breath because I've been working underneath that dash, and I must say it gets rather hot. But anyway, a beer at the end of the day, at the end of the episode. And what an episode it's been. I've loved detailing that engine. There's loads more to come, so keep tuned. I can't out myself. And as for this interior, I just love the choices I made. And I must say, Richard helped me out. He said, the leather, you can't beat it. It's the smell. And I mean, the smell of this is amazing. Also, I like the little red stitching. Not on the carpets. The red piping I thought was a bit too much, so I didn't go for that. But it's just nice because it just raises the interior very, very slightly. And the gauges look lovely. I love analog gauges, I really do. I know you can get the digital thing, but no, I love this. So, it's great. I tell you, it's wonderful. And this carbon seal covers, beautiful. Carbon center console, again, beautiful. It really is. It's a work of art, this. I love this car. I know, I keep rambling, sorry. My wife goes, really, really? But anyway, so what we're going to do next week, I don't know. I think the next episode, I might start on the rear bulkhead. Go in the engine bay, because what we've got to do is start plumbing in things like the fueling system and a bit of the cooling system, because all that has to be plumbed on the rear bulkhead before that lovely 6.3 litre can get fitted. And of course there's a few other things like glass, and then there's some vinyl kit I've got to put on around the top of the windscreen and so on. Obviously the seat's got to go in, but that's easy. But I guess there's only one thing to do. I've got the ignition key. No, I'm not driving it, I'm just going to start it. So don't worry out there. So just listen to this. Ready? Isn't it great? Until next time, keep smiling, enjoy your spannering, and remember, creativity is intelligence having fun.